I've got my volume at the highest. I can hardly hear you. Maybe there's an adjustment on the screen here. All right, let me, I have a Bluetooth right here that maybe will amplify it. Hold on just one moment. Forgive this tardiness. I couldn't have prepared for this. Hold on one moment. Let me set it up. I got to go to settings. I'll be right back.
You're fine.
Oh, there it worked, huh?
Oh, we're good?
I'm still going to hook it up just a minute because it's better, but let me see if I can. All right, let's try it now.
Okay, how you doing? Is that better?
Well, it didn't hook. It said it connected, but it's not. All right, I think I can hear you.
Okay. So I read your chart, and you've had quite a spring and summer, haven't you?
Yeah, it started just before New Year's, and it's been something else.
Oh my, that sounds awful.
The 30th of December, I went and walked into a clinic under my own power. And on the 10th of March, when I came home, they had to take me to the car in a wheelchair. And I did use a walker to walk in to sit down on my recliner. But yeah, it's been something else.
Wow, and so, wow, and all of that, and that was COVID.
Yes, COVID, double pneumonia, and then atrophy that set in after I was intubated, a trach and a peg, and 18 days in a chemically induced coma.
Wow.
And then the scar tissue from my vocal cords, and the local ENT wanted to remove my vocal cords or put in a permanent trach, and fortunately, God's precious angel, Dr. Stacy, said, I think I can fix that in 20 minutes. After they put me under, I could breathe, and I will be forever grateful and endeared to her.
Oh boy. So yeah, and that was in May. So that was a couple of months of not being able to breathe very easily or use your voice very easily.
Yeah, Palm Sunday is when it first manifests, because my the place where they removed the trach finally completely healed closed, and the Dr. Stacy told me that I was breathing through the equivalent of a cocktail straw.
Yeah. That's amazing. I'm writing things down.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right. So after that, I saw her notes afterwards, and the she was able to open things up. You had a fairly good voice after that. You were certainly breathing better.
Yes, and I have a good speaking resonance, but occasionally flutters a little bit. If you saw the video where she did in my throat, when I get into higher registers, my vocal cords looks like a reed on a bassoon or something. They're really fluttering.
Yeah, okay. So with that is, I guess I wanted to double check. Is that the area you want me to work on with you? Because are you having any breathing problems at all right now?
None. In fact, I went, this is new. I don't believe your office would even have this. 1 week ago yesterday, Wednesday morning, I went to my follow-up with a pulmonologist after doing a series of breathing exercises, and he analyzed all that. In fact, if you provide an email, I'll email you my wife actually video recorded the whole session, and he went through all the lung functions and said that for my age that it's basically as if nothing ever occurred, and have complete capacity, and told me that I was no longer had any need to take any of those inhaler medications. So I've been off of that for a week, and I have zero problem breathing. And I will testify that yesterday, when you fly and you think you have it all prepared, yesterday was my first time at an airport since onset, and it was as if anything that could delay did, including a mother of a toddler with a sippy cup in front of me at TSA, and they had to it seemed like it took 5 minutes to go pour that drink out. And by the time they released me, I learned that I could still walk briskly. The first time I walked a quarter mile to the gate, and then the flight was already closed, so I missed it. So then I had to go to fly to Charlotte instead of Chicago, and the connecting gate was, I don't know if you've ever been to Charlotte, but it's very, very long between gates.
Yeah.
And I did not utilize a wheelchair. So I'm very grateful. Yesterday I got to test my breathing capacity, and I was able to walk briskly to the flight I missed and could still function and breathe. So I was very encouraged by that.
No kidding.
So that's a long answer to your breathing question, but I think you need more information is better than less. So.
Oh, I agree. And so, in other words, it's been tested not only by the pulmonologist but also by you in terms of practical application.
Yes.
You know, so this is fantastic. Well, this is the kind of stuff that makes us smile. We just love stuff like this. This is wonderful.
When I walked into your office and saw your voice as our passion, I felt like,
Yeah.
well, it's a God job completely. My wife called, and the person to whom they had referred us couldn't see me. And she says, my husband can't breathe. It's not like he has a sore leg. And he said, we have an opening tomorrow with Dr. Stacey. And so thank you all very, very much. And
Oh, yay. I'm glad that worked out.
Yes.
I'm really glad that worked out. Yeah. Well, you know, obviously we have to take these airway cases very seriously. It sounds like yours, in reality, is resolved in that regard. So that's not what I'm evaluating today. It sounds like we're looking at your voice today. It sounds like.
yes,
Okay. So with that, I'm going to go through a couple of. Are you a singer?
I've been singing since I was 5 years old in front of people. And so now you brought singing up. So excuse me?
I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is that part of what we're evaluating today then?
Yes, because Dr. Stacey said that you were not only a vocal coach or therapist, but that you are a singer and you would relate to me. So
Yeah.
I'm not a musician by occupation, but I am a passionate musician. I play probably a half a dozen instruments, and my sister, who has both her bachelor and master's degree from Tulsa University, her entire career is music, and she teaches a plethora of instruments as well as vocal coaching. And so she analyzed my range a few years ago, and it's nearly 4 octaves. Yeah, right. So, and I can send you, if you want, I can send you some, a couple of recordings so you can see what I'm talking about. Anyway, last year I sang the Lord's Prayer at a wedding, and I overwhelmed the. You're a singer, correct?
Yep.
So you understand that the EQ on the amplification system in any church, they have VU meters that allow the sound system to automatically check out if you overwhelm the system.
Yeah.
And I was singing at a wedding in a Catholic church, but they're accustomed to minor key arias and not somebody that's Pentecostal that lets it rip. And
You just stated exactly what I needed to hear. That's awesome.
so I sang the Lord's Prayer in this wedding, and you can literally hear during the recording, I overwhelmed the sound system and still filled that cathedral with my own vocal cords.
Wow.
And so I want my range back, because now that I have a platform from which to testify about this miracle, singing is just part of it, because music opens the soul for the spoken word of God, and I want to be able to do it all.
I love that. That's a wonderful race. I've heard it said music is a second prayer language.
Yeah, that's why. That's true.
Yeah, singing is a second or something like that. It's a second prayer language or something like that. Which it is for me as well. I feel that way too. Um, so you have a long history of singing. You had a 4-octave range. What was so if I had to put you in a choir, would probably I don't know if you ever actually worked with a choir. You mostly were
When I was a kid, but I've sang in quartets, so.
Yeah, so I mean, were you active like in a quartet situation, like a performing quartet, a barbershop or
At church, my background is all church, so I think I think today is probably a lot of foundation. So I'll just tell you, um, I've been raised in a very, very godly home. Uh, I like to tell people my analysis is, if it made you grin, it had to be sin, right? So so we had no television. All I ever got to do was listen to long play records, and I listened to the Blackwood Brothers and the Statesmen and the Singing Rambos, and it evolved from quartet and Southern gospel. So that's my background. And at church, it was all very charismatic, camp meeting. I mean, I was raised Pentecostal, and so my heroes were preachers, and we could not participate in sports. So my sport was memorizing the Bible and outdoing everybody on the quiz team. Literally memorize the whole book of the Bible, whatever our subject was, and becoming a master musician. So,
wow.
so I learned music and I learned the Bible, and my music genre is traditional camp meeting hymns and that kind of thing, and Southern gospel quartet. So you started to ask me about a choir. I think I could answer you better in a quartet setting. I could sing anything from baritone, lead, to tenor, and typically they wanted me to be lead because my voice is so dominant and so strong, and I have such tremendous relative pitch that even if it wasn't a 440A on a piano, I would blend with anything that was played, and my lead voice was strong, but I could sing the tenor part or baritone if I needed.
Gotcha. All right. So, I may have more questions as we go through, but what I want to do right now is just ask you first about your speaking voice, and then we'll go to your singing voice, okay?
Sure.
So, in your speaking voice, and for both of these instruments, your responses are going to indicate How frequently you also have this experience. So these are all statements that people have made about their voice. Your response indicates how often you also have had that. So 0 is never, 1 is almost never, and then it goes sometimes, almost always, and always. So that it's between 0 and 4, never to always, okay?
Sure.
Make sense? Okay, we can always review that. My voice makes it difficult for people to hear me.
Never. Oh,
Okay.
so that'd be 0,
So
right?
over the last, so let's say, you can say either one, but let's make sure that we're talking about the last 4 weeks.
Never.
Okay. I run out of air when I talk.
Very, very seldom, but occasionally.
So almost never.
Yes.
People have difficulty understanding me in a noisy room.
Does that include enunciation? Because I've found that my register is low enough that if there's cacophonic interference, I've been asked, would you repeat that and enunciate more clearly because I can't hear you? So if that's the answer you're looking for.
Yeah, that is.
Okay.
So would you say that's a sometimes then?
Sometimes, yes.
The sound of my voice varies throughout the day.
Most every day.
Okay. My family has difficulty hearing me when I call throughout the house.
Never.
I use the phone less often than I would like to because of my voice.
Never.
I'm tense when talking to others because of my voice.
Never. Now I'll qualify that. I'd like to say, because I'm aware of how clear my voice was before, I've kind of gone from Sandy Patty to Bonnie Raitt, and I can hear the raspiness, and it frustrates me a little bit, but it never prevents me from communicating.
So would you say in neither, this isn't suggesting that it's preventing you, but would you say tense is not a good word for you? Then you want to stay with your 0? Frustrated,
Yeah.
It might be a different, okay.
Just slightly frustrated, but not tense.
Okay.
And I've been anticipating meeting you, and you're going to help me, so I'll get over this.
That's right. I think so too. I tend to avoid groups of people because of my voice.
Never.
People seem irritated with my voice.
Never.
People ask, what is wrong with your voice?
Never. Oh, my wife in the very early morning say, what's wrong? I said, I haven't talked yet. But
okay, so I'm going to put that as I'm going to say sometimes on that and talk about early morning. Okay? Because that's somebody who knows your voice. All right. I speak with friends, neighbors, or relatives less often because of my voice.
never.
People ask me to repeat myself when speaking face to face.
Occasionally.
Is that the same as sometimes or almost never?
Almost never.
Okay.
As I mentioned, the cacophonic, I just flew home from Tulsa with my sister and my mother because my father passed, and this was the first Father's Day. So,
I'm sorry.
thank you. And I believe I gave him the COVID, so it's very frustrating. But I would notice that my sister would say, would you please say that again and enunciate? It goes back to that again. But never does it cause me to say I'm going to withdraw from people or conversation.
Oh, understood. Okay, I feel as though I have to strain to produce a voice.
Occasionally, sometimes.
Okay. I find other people don't understand my voice problem.
Never.
My voice difficulties restrict my personal and social life.
Never.
The clarity of my voice is unpredictable.
Occasionally.
sometimes?
Sometimes.
I tried to change my voice to sound different.
Does this interview involve psychology?
I think anything about voice might involve psychology.
Okay, well, I'm trying to be very forthright with you, and so I want to. These aren't questions you're going to ask me, so I think I should share with you. So I think you're wanting a very accurate and vulnerable, transparent peek into my heart and life and my voice. So I will tell you that I have been granted almost celebrity status. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. When I got ready to leave the hospital and they knew I was good to go, the muckety muck nurse came into my room and said, fewer than 10% meet your criteria. If we intubate them and put the trach in and put the peg in, if they wake up, most can't move their fingers or their toes, or they can do all that and they have some motor skills, but they cannot perform a cognitive conversation. And they said, you are such a refreshing change, because one weekend we mortally weaned 7 people, and you are leaving here with all your, even though you can't stand up, therapy will get your legs back. Having said that, because people in 4 continents have been praying for me, and because social media is so real, and so many people have been following me, I walk into social settings and people who know me peripherally and have been praying for me through social media, when they're introduced to me, they go, are you the man that was so sick? Look at you. And last Wednesday, literally within an hour, 2 separate people of color that I've never met in my life, one stopped me in the parking lot at Walmart in her car and rolled her window down. She said, I'm so thrilled to see you walking. I've been praying for you. With all that being said, I'm not withdrawing from anyone, because I believe this is a collaborative miracle and they all are participating. No one's complaining about my voice. What they're doing is saying, we're so thrilled and celebrating that you are here functioning with us. The reason you and I are talking is because I want to sing again with my people and make great harmony. But if I have to speak the rest of my life with what I have, at least I have resonance. At least I can communicate. I can speak with authority on principles, scriptures, law of harvest. I can speak very, very well. It just may annoy people if I try to sing. And right now, I'm withdrawing from no one, because I am praying that I properly steward the platform on which I've been placed.
Yeah. No, I understand all of that. I appreciate that. What I mean by this question about I try to change my voice to sound different, are you using any techniques? Are you using any kinds of, do you change the volume? Do you change the pitch? Do you change anything like that to sound different?
Because I have so many friends that are high-end musical, they've told me, hum 5 steps down and then go to a different pitch and hum 5 steps down and whisper, and these different strategies that I can use. But I truthfully have been just kind of waiting for this moment for you to be the coach and I need to get a tissue. Excuse me a moment.
Oh, sure. This has been such a life-changing experience, hasn't it?
Absolutely. I've never hesitated to do anything in my life. My dad is a master craftsman, and he taught. I'm a master finish carpenter, but as a hobby.
Yeah.
I drive across the country and travel a lot. I virtually never back down from anything, and now I recognize that even I have limitations. And so, yes, it's been very, very life changing.
Interesting. Well, all right. Here's the next one. I feel left out of conversations because of my voice.
Never.
Okay. I use a great deal of effort to speak.
Occasionally, sometimes, and I'll qualify that. So the last time my sister and my mother saw me was at Christmas. I left on the 27th. Every one of us got COVID.
God bless her.
They were very sick, and Daddy died. And I was too weak. I was in a coma when he passed. I didn't even know what happened. I was too weak to go to Tulsa and help with anything that was going on.
Of course.
So they allegedly knew that I was better, but until I got there and they hugged my body personally and knew that I was better. And all that to say this. So then I arrived there on Thursday evening, and I flew home yesterday morning. And I talked incessantly, and now my voice is hoarse. So to answer your question, I didn't withdraw from the conversation, but I've exhausted my voice.
Right. No, that's all right. And I know, I get that you've never withdrawn from the conversation, but the other thing is, it sounds like with fatigue, it's harder to use it.
Yes.
So is your voice worse in the evening?
Yes.
Okay. Would you say sometimes or almost always?
Sometimes.
My voice problem causes me to lose income.
Never.
My voice problem upsets me.
Sometimes.
I'm less outgoing because of my voice problem.
I'm a sanguine and I haven't changed.
Gotcha. My voice makes me feel handicapped.
Well, for singing, if that's
Yeah.
so, sometimes.
This is your speaking voice.
No, never.
So okay. My voice gives out on me in the middle of speaking.
So seldom that I'm going to say never.
Okay. I feel annoyed when people ask me to repeat.
Never.
I feel embarrassed when they ask me to repeat.
Never.
My voice makes me feel incompetent.
Never.
I'm ashamed of my voice.
Never.
Okay. So would you say your speaking voice is normal, mildly impaired, moderately impaired, or severely impaired?
Mildly on the error side of not being impaired. I mean, my closest, like my best friend spoke to me the other day and says, boy, your speaking voice sounds really, really good. So,
Okay. So it sounds like you would consider it to be a mild issue at this point. All right.
yeah, and all conditional because I knew you were going to help me. So,
And I will, I promise. So here's your singing voice that we're going to talk about now, okay?
sure.
And I'm just doing a little bit of housekeeping here. All right, same scale, never to always. It takes a lot of effort to sing, and this is again over the last 4 weeks.
I would come close to always. I can sing in this register, but if I try to do any dynamic changes, it's always frustrating.
Okay, my voice cracks and breaks.
Yes, always.
I am frustrated by my singing?
Always.
People ask, what is wrong with your voice when I sing?
Never.
My ability to sing varies day to day.
Occasionally.
Like sometimes
Yes, sometimes.
my voice gives out on me when I'm singing.
Sometimes.
My singing voice upsets me.
Always.
My singing problems make me not want to sing or perform.
That's not a psychological trick, is it? I want to perform.
No? Yep, okay, so that's a no. It's not a trick. So you still want to do that.
Yes.
So that's a 0. Okay. I'm embarrassed by my singing.
Sometimes.
I'm unable to use my high voice.
Always.
I get nervous before I sing because of my singing problems.
Close to always.
So almost always.
Yeah.
My speaking voice is not normal.
Sometimes.
My throat is dry when I sing.
Most
Yeah,
always.
so almost always, okay. I've had to eliminate certain songs from my singing or performance.
Always.
I have no confidence in my singing voice.
Most always. Almost always.
Gotcha. My singing voice is never normal.
Always.
I have trouble making my voice do what I want it to.
Always.
I have to push it to produce my voice when singing.
Almost always.
I have trouble controlling the breathiness in my voice.
Almost always.
I have trouble controlling the raspiness in my voice.
Always.
I have trouble singing loudly.
Almost always.
I have difficulty staying on pitch when I sing.
Never.
Okay.
Now wait a minute, I'll qualify that. When it falls off, like I try to hit a high and then it just falls. But it wasn't because I didn't know the pitch. It's just it
No, I
failed.
would say that's not the same thing. I think it's your ability to get up there, right? All right. I feel anxious about my singing.
Almost always.
My singing sounds forced.
Always.
My speaking voice is hoarse after I sing.
I can't quantify that because I haven't done enough singing to. I would say always.
Okay. My voice quality is inconsistent.
Always.
My singing voice makes it difficult for the audience to hear me.
I haven't sang for an audience since this.
Okay, so we'll do an NA on that one for now. My singing voice makes me feel handicapped.
Always.
My singing voice tires easily.
Always.
I feel pain, tickling, or choking when I sing.
Sometimes.
I'm unsure of what will come out when I sing.
Always.
Okay. I feel something's missing in my life because of my inability to sing.
Always.
I'm worried about my singing problems. I'm worried my singing problems will cause me to lose money.
Sometimes.
I feel left out of the music scene because of my voice.
Sometimes.
My singing makes me feel incompetent.
Sometimes.
I've had to cancel performances, singing engagements, rehearsals, or practices because of my singing?
Never.
No? Okay. Alrighty. Perfect. Well, that is exactly what I needed. Let me- all right. So, what I'm going to do right now is, well, first of all, give me your email address if you don't mind.
Randell, Randell, Morrison, Morrison, at gmail.com.
Perfect. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to email you this, and I'm going to email you an audio file for this first set of exercises, okay?
Sure.
So this first set of exercises is meant to strengthen and stretch things out. So we're just going to go through, there are 4 exercises in this. It's they're called the vocal function exercises. You can Google them as well if you wanted to hear somebody else do them too, but I'm giving you the way I want you to do them so that we can just have kind of a platform to begin on.
Okay.
It also lets me get inside your voice a little bit too, which is helpful for me. So the very first one is a twangy sound, kind of a very forward sound. So it's like this. Go ahead. It's meant to unload the system, so it's not a huge pressure point, okay? Go ahead.
Me.
Good, very nice. All right. So again, not where you're going to do that in front of anybody else. It's just that it's one of those things that we want to get air up and this right up in front, so that it's really twangy, kind of in an extreme. So there's that. The second one then is a glide from low to high, and I want to hear it first on a lip trill. So I want to hear it first because on a lip trill, because that means that it's air driven, and that's what I really need to hear from you. So let's start with that. Can you do that, by the way? The
Oh, this? You want me to do that?
all the way up. Yeah, you can if you want to. Yeah.
And go all the way up. It fell off.
Good, very good. Well, but that's a nice stretch. That's not bad. So now I want you to do it on the whoop, and I want you to use that much air. So I want to make sure that we're not holding your breath or anything when we're doing this, right?
I can't get any higher.
Good, very good. And you used to go higher? All right. So do it again one more time. Good, much better. All right. Then you're going to start at the top and come down, again, using that lip drill. Good. And now, very nice. That was really smooth. That was very, very good. All right. That didn't have a break in it, and your lip trill did, so that was much better. You're able to master that. All right. So this is actually very encouraging. I hope it is for you too. And I know I've never heard you sing before or anything like that, so I would appreciate if you want to send along anything that you have done, any recording that is a good representative of what you're comparing yourself to. That would be helpful for me. All right. So we're going to start at C3. So you're going to be starting an octave below me. Down here, and you're going to sing this, and it's just going to be C, D, E, F, and G, but we're going to hold them out each individually. So I just want to hear you do this.
Go.
Yep, hold it out.
Go.
Good. And now I want to see if you can shape that a so that it's a little clearer. Yeah, just see what happens. Good. Next one. Good. And stay on the O vowel. Good. Good. So that's a very good start, and I'll time you on those next week after you've had it, or next session, after you've had a chance to work through some of those things, okay? And so I think first of all, this is very encouraging, and it's definitely something we can work with, right? So I don't want you to fret about it in terms of whether or not it gets better. It does, but there's plenty to work with. And like I said, if you have something that you can compare or show me what you're comparing to,
Yeah, I'll send you some recordings.
that'd be great.
If I may ask you a question, I realize you're not the doctor, but I religiously take a nutrient regimen, and I know the owner of the company, and I've marketed this for a very long time, and so, you know, to be unhealthy is just really out of my wheelhouse completely. But I've noticed as recent as this morning, when I take this, it's a powder that you mix into a nutrient, and it's called microionized, so it's very, very tiny particles. But I noticed that even though it's mixed up in liquid, that it irritates my throat. And you hear me even now. And I've been wondering, the doctor showed me at the last, when she discharged me, she ran that video down my throat again, and there were 3, have you seen that?
I did not have a chance to see
Okay.
that. No,
It looks like 3 curds of cottage cheese or something, on my vocal cords, and she says that will still continue to heal, and that was 3 weeks ago or something. Anyway, Memorial Day weekend, and anyway, absent my voice issue, I continue to feel like there's something there, and I've never been so fortunate through all this. I've had no pain, but I will tell you that occasionally my throat feels sore, and I don't know if that has any bearing on what you're doing, but I thought you should know. So.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I think we need to keep track of that. There's plenty of reasons why you should have a sore throat.
Okay.
And that's there's a lot of reasons why that makes sense. What I think you saw on screen was probably healing tissue, and that it's kind of a normal postoperative healing period.
Okay.
Where you see some of those white places, and they do improve and get better, and either they'll go away in one form or another. Either you'll cough it up, or they'll just go. So I'm not worried about those.
All right.
It can lend itself to reduced vibration or reduced symmetry of vibration, and I think that's what you notice particularly in your upper register. Yeah. The other thing that I would expect to see happen is that some of the soreness is just is frankly some increased sensitivity too. Comes with the territory after everything you've been through. That doesn't surprise me at all.
Okay.
This falls right in line. Yeah, the increased sensitivity, especially with small particles like that, I would say if you feel that, I would try to not clear your throat. I would try to drink more water if you can. By the way, do you drink plenty of water?
I don't drink enough, I know that, so I'll drink more.
Okay. Yeah, if you wanted to get up to maybe 4 or 5 bottles a day, if you don't drink that much, that's a really good goal. But I would start with that, and I would also do a hard swallow, and by that I mean when you're swallowing, push your tongue against the roof of your mouth as you're swallowing. So
Okay,
yeah, and it acts like a squeegee all the way down.
sure,
You'll feel
okay.
it. Yeah. So that can sometimes help with that urge to throat clear. Throat clear is one of those pesky things that will sort of develop a life of its own, and especially if you are already set up with kind of a hypersensitive system, that will heal too. And it's a result of your life,
Yeah,
over the last couple of months. So that's okay. We can work through that, but it's just something I would say right at the get go. That's something you want to be aware of, is to try and reduce that.
okay, great.
Um, yeah. So I want you to practice these. I'll send everything to you.
All right.
I want you to practice these twice a day, 2 repetitions each time. The goal is to hold in terms of that last set, hold those notes as long as you can without strain, right? So don't push for an extra second or anything like that. I just want you to go as long as you can, and we'll keep working through it, okay?
All right,
But I think you're going to do really well.
thank you.
I'm very confident, and we're going to get this to your singing voice as soon as we can, as far as some of these concepts go. But you're going to be great. You're already primed for it. You're already, this is going to be really fun.
Good. So,
I'm going to enjoy it.
what is your music background?
Oh, sure. So I started out in opera. I sang classical music, but my background is similar to yours, except it was American Baptist. I grew up in a conservative American Baptist church.
Yes.
Not as conservative as you, but it was not many people can boast the way you do about conservative backgrounds.
I wasn't boasting, I was just sharing.
No, I know.
Because pride's a sin too, don't forget it.
What's that?
I said, because pride is a sin too, don't forget it.
No, no pride on my end. Believe me.
No, you told me I was boasting, and I'm like, I don't want to go to hell for boasting. I'm just joking with you.
Yeah, no, not at all. My background though is I'm more evangelical Christianity,
Sure.
Versus the Pentecostal background, but which obviously overlays with yours as well. But so my father was a minister, and I ended up doing a lot of singing in church. I mean, lots of singing in church. So that's how I grew up, and then I became a music major. I got a master's of music in performance and pedagogy, and that.
Wow.
So I went in that direction, and I performed, but I got to the point where it's like, yeah, I'm still really poor.
Yeah.
And there's a point where you're like, I'm not sure, that you just practicality, and you spend a lot of time working through it. And I started praying a lot about it, and I also was working in a ministry called Love in Action, which was working at that time in Chicago with people who were going through the AIDS crisis, right? And at that time it was a death sentence.
Yes.
It was starting to go into a manageable sentence. And so I was working through that, and I realized that everything I was doing, all my practicing, all my other stuff was very me focused. And I really wanted something that wasn't. I wanted something that I could get back with, that I could, So again, praying through it, and I did some research, took a test, and it's a strong interest survey. Found out my strong interests were closely aligned with several things, but top 3 things stood out. But speech pathology was among them. So was marketing, but I crossed that one off. Then I went in. So when I was going into speech pathology, I found that emerging at that time was this whole area of voice and vocal rehab, in the sense that it was taking injured voices and getting them stronger again. And my own the part that I had left out was that I'd had surgery myself, had gone through this personally, and so I kind of knew what this was about.
Similar to mine?
Not similar to yours. Mine was a surgery they probably wouldn't do now, but it was for vocal nodules that weren't responding to therapy. But part of the problem was that I knew way more about my voice than my therapist did.
Yes.
She didn't impress me as somebody who knew very much about my system, and so I couldn't invest with her, you know. And I thought that's something that I would love to change. I would love to see if we can avoid surgery. Yours we couldn't have, but it's, you know, what do we do after surgery to restore voices and to create, you know, again for singers, particularly my heart was for singers. And also, there's this big gap in conversations. You know, you end up having. So my big, when I started this out, I was like, you know, you guys are saying the same thing very differently, but you're saying the same thing, and let me bridge that for you because I speak both languages. So it was one of those things, interpreting some of the medical for a singer's point of view, and also understanding maybe the singer and the singer psyche, if you will, because I think it's completely often it's often misunderstood, honestly, by medical professionals who are either working with cancer or realigning jaws or working on some of these gross abnormalities versus these fine motor, you know, bringing back these fine motor nuances to, you know, as they approach surgery. And I think that is so much improved. Altogether, that is way improved. They will still save your life first, nuance second, as they should. But it's one of those things where, as we approach it, they are much more understanding, I think, now than they used to be about what the voice actually physically needs in order for these lives to continue, right? Or for you know, a lot of times it is the profession that needs to continue. So I get to jump in and work with voices. I work with them very differently in the sense that I'm working as a rehab professional as well as a singer, but in the sense that we're able to accomplish quite a lot in a short time because of the science behind it, because of what we're doing that is scientifically proven to work effectively. And we're working with people who know their instrument, you know? I mean, you know your voice. So on the one hand, that can be a barrier because you get frustrated. But on the other hand, it's not much for me to cue you to get where we need to go because you really do understand it. You really can do some very fine motor work that you know, a simple cue here and there will perform a great deal more than, you know, breaking it down and getting it scientifically perfect. You know, we don't want that. We want it to be artistically right.
Yes.
And so, you know, as we're approaching that, how we get there is important, but also just the freedom of having this instrument back is really where we're going, and seeing what we can't do to your wind instrument, creating that. Yeah, and this is part of what I suspect. I suspect breath support, airflow. Obviously, the airway was disrupted a little bit in the course of all of this.
Yes.
And so getting coming back from that is probably going to be something we reacquaint ourselves with pretty quickly in terms of the kind of breath support you might need now.
Mm.
And things are different with your instrument, period. We know this, right? I mean, so finding this new instrument, finding out how we can, you know, getting to know it together, but you know it much better than I do. So I'll be discovering, and you'll be coaching me on it, but at the same time, we're also going to be learning what it does now versus what it did then. Because and it could be that we do come against some places that are just kind of hard nosed on a few things that used to be open and okay, and that's simply because of structural differences.
Yes.
But for the most part, I mean, you're getting a clear sound at times. I still hear a raspy sound, but I think we can fix that. So as we go through it, I don't know about a 4-octave range.
Yeah, but
Because I
that's
know that
okay.
yeah, I mean, it's really going to be about what can we accomplish, and I think probably a great deal.
How many people would, who are musicians, would do anything to have 3 octaves? I mean, it's an anomaly. So.
Yes, right, exactly. And yeah, good. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. I was starting to get worried. I was like, I'm not sure I can get 4 octaves back, but I'm not sure I would have expected 4 octaves out of anybody.
No, and it's nobody even believes it. I went through the exercise and it was like 3 steps short of 4 octaves. I don't know. I don't even remember exactly. But yes, it that doesn't matter. if I can hold a long dynamic note with clarity and be right in relative pitch, then that's the thing. So
Yeah, and that's perfect. I'm happy to hear that because I feel like, and again, that goes right back to airway, right? So, you don't need any medications. It sounds like, but I think we'll know more after you get started on these, and I can play with your voice a little bit more next time.
okay, very good. So I'm trying to guess, so are you a soprano or are you a contralto? I'm trying to figure out your range.
Oh, for my singing voice, yeah. For my singing voice, I actually am probably more of I'm still a lyric soprano, but it's a little bit heavier than it used to be because I'm older. So I can sing the mama roles now.
Cool.
I don't sing the ingenues anymore, but I can sing the mama roles. Let me look at my calendar with you. And I say that by way of saying we have. I'll put you on a cancellation list if you have some flexibility in your day.
I've been self-employed forever, so I'm pretty flexible all the time, but
Oh, okay.
our anniversaries are always special. This is extraordinarily special because I survived. And the second is our wedding anniversary. We're going to basically travel beginning Sunday through the so let's not do anything until after the holiday, please.
Oh, of course, yeah. I don't think I can anyway.
All right, good.
That sounds lovely. It sounds like you are going to have a lovely time.
44 years this 2nd of July, so.
Wow. I think you are exactly twice as much as we are. We're going to be 22 years in August.
And I will, when I send you this email, I will also include, this is something that I've never met anyone else that has it in the world.
What's that?
Our mothers were pregnant at the same time. She was born 5 days earlier than me, so she's my little cougar. And back in the
Very little.
Yeah.
Very little.
I remind her of it often. Anyway, so we moved from the evangelistic quarters to our own home one time when we moved to another town. And I orchestrated it that we would move between our 29th and 30th birthday. And so I would tell people, yeah, when we moved here, she was in her 30s and I was in my 20s. And
Oh my God.
I'm a facetious rascal, but I do love her dearly. Anyway,
Oh,
I'll send you the little video clip because back in the day, my mother had a wind-up movie camera, and there's a movie of her kissing me at 17 months old. So it's pretty special.
Oh, no way. So you guys have you've known each other for your whole life?
Yeah, since we were
Oh
babies.
my gosh. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So, so you self-employed, but what do you do?
Well, my illustrious title is Economic Efficiency Engineering. I help entrepreneurs reduce taxes.
Oh, awesome.
So somebody who is, big public companies, that's too bad. But if somebody owns a business, I don't care what it is, I don't know if they're a farmer, excavator, a widget factory owner, a physician, y'all are with IU Health, so that's enormously big, and the bureaucracy is too much to overcome. But if Dr. Stacy and you had your own practice, I take people from the 39.6% bracket to 25% rather effortlessly. Well,
Nice.
10%, 15% of $600,000 will build a church, educate a child, start an orphanage. It does a lot of things for the kingdom. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have to let you go. I will have my front office call you and set that up.
Perfect.
For the next schedule, okay?
I've enjoyed
Thank
this
you
very
so
much. Thank you.
Me too.
All right,
Thank
bye-bye.
you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.